Hello, everybody. It is Friday. It's Friday. How is everyone doing today? Hope you're all doing good. And for the replay, I am Evelyn of Pink Sheep Design, designer, maker, crocheter, chunky yarn lover. Yes, chunky yarn obsessor, addict, whatever you want to call it. You can see all the lovely yarn back there. But every Friday I go live here on Instagram for Pink Sheep and Friends, and that is where I bring on other people in the crochet community, fiber friends, if you will, so that you can expand your community, make some new friends, and it should be really fun. I was going to come on early today. That didn't happen. That was my goal. But before I bring on today's guest, I did want to let you guys know that our newest hooks are live in the Etsy shop. We've already sold quite a few, so I'm not sure off the top of my head exactly how many are left right this second, but I'll give you guys a sneaky peek on video. So we used our silk rainbow filament, which is a fast color changing filament, which allows us to get a nice fade on these hooks. And for this release, we have a couple of different options. We have a resin coated option. So you can see there's some shine there. That is because this is one of the ones that we coated with resin versus this one, which is just directly off the print bed. So you've got some texture to this hook, which we've heard so far from people who have used these uncoated hooks that these are actually really great, especially if your hands get kind of sweaty when you're working, and it'll slide around on the resin. So these might be a really, really great option for you. Plus, these are $25 versus our $45 resin coated, quote unquote, premium hook option. So these are in the shop. And the other option that you have this time is that we actually were finally able to get some Susan Bates inline style hooks included in this release. So this is one of our resin coated inline Susan Bates hooks. All of them are marked. This one is a 4mm. So there you go. That's today's big announcement. They are live in the shop. If you are on the email list, you just got the email. If you were in the hook club, you got an email last night. But I still have a box full, And we tried to go heavy on the 5-6 range, since that's what everyone was saying they were preferring to see, is that 5 and 6 range. So on to what we are here for today, and that is Pink Sheep and Friends. And today I'm super excited because, little backstory, the first time I brought this person on, it was a fantastic chat, but Instagram lost my video and I didn't get to post it. So I already told her from the very beginning I had to bring her back on. So today we are going to be chatting with Chereen from Smeeny Beanie Knits. So I believe she has already requested to be on the video. Thank you for being so patient. And I'm going to bring you on and catch up and see how it's been going. Oh, I need some coffee.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. It's been a really busy week. I'm gonna lift this up a little bit. Like one of those weeks where you're like, this is all good. Everything's planned out. We've got this. And then like a million things end up coming up every single day.
Yeah. And we're nearing, cozy season, so I feel like things are starting to get crazy.
Yes. Yeah, and I've realized that it's busy season in so many ways.
Yeah.
So like you've got people who only do this as a hobby and it's time to start making gifts. You've got people who do craft shows, so it's time to prep for craft show season. You've got designers who are switching gears and trying to create fall items. So I mean, like, it's literally everyone in the crochet world is starting to say, okay, it's time to get it in gear.
Totally.
Summer's over.
Yes.
So I have to say, and I think it's so interesting that you were my very first Pink Sheep and Friends friend who came on, and I'm pretty sure we had a little chat about it because you had been doing interviews, like a series, and I think you still do them. Is that?
I actually did not do it this year. I did it for 2 seasons, like a summer series. I think there's a total of like 30 interviews
Yeah,
or
that's
some
a
a lot,
lot.
but basically it was called How I Built My Maker Biz, and I wanted to talk
Hmm.
to different makers, mostly fiber arts. Actually, not even, mostly just
Yeah.
any craft. So like
Hmm.
this jewelry people, just to like talk to them about how they came to be a maker, whether it's their full-time job or a side business or whatever. But so that was really fun. I didn't do it this year because I this past year has been very filled with grief. We lost 3 different people within like 8 months of each other. So I kind of took a lot of time off, which I feel very, very grateful and fortunate that I'm able to do that with my
Yeah.
business. I was like, thank God I'm working or I have my own business,
Yeah.
and that's a
Yeah.
possibility for me. So it's been a summer of healing and self-care and just resetting everything. So
Yeah.
yeah, I did
Yeah.
not do the maker series, but hopefully next
Well,
year.
and I wanted to ask you about that. So is that only on Instagram, or have you migrated those to a YouTube channel by chance? Or on
I
your website?
So my first season doing it, I spent a lot of time downloading the videos, uploading them back to YouTube, writing a blog post about them. Last year was crazy.
Yeah.
So I have not done that for those. I mean, as a solopreneur, you're like, I'm a maker, business owner, and now I'm also a content creator.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
the content part has been on the lower end of the pole as far
Yeah.
as like doing it. But at some point, maybe who knows when, May, I'll get a
Yeah.
chance to do that. But
Yeah.
yes.
Well, and I ask so that people can go find it. So you do have a YouTube channel now. You guys should check those out. If you like the Pink Sheep and Friends chats and you are looking for something that's a little more business oriented, so if you're growing your business, starting your business, those are great. And I know that I asked you when I started, I think I asked you probably for some advice of like how that was working and how it was working for you, and brought you on for a chat. And it was interesting because it was like immediately after. I mean, it was one of those wonderful Instagram glitch moments where I was on my phone and, I exited the app and kept it open so I could go grab a photo to put on the cover. And I come back and it's just gone.
Yeah.
The whole video is just gone. And I even messaged you and you gave me great advice. And you were actually the reason that I turned on how to archive my live videos so that now I can always go back and find them. And I'm just so glad to be able to have you back.
Yeah, me too. I don't even remember when our last chat was because I was like, I haven't even really shown my face. Well,
Yeah.
I've shown my face, but I haven't really
Mm-hmm.
spoken on Instagram in a
Yeah.
long time. So I was like, oh God, it's been a lot. It's like been months,
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe a year. I don't know. Months.
It's probably been a year. I mean,
Yeah.
since we chatted,
Yeah.
because we were in our old house. I don't even think it was on a Friday. I think I was at the point where I was like, I don't know when these are going to be. It's just up in the air. This is fun though.
And have
But
you
we
been
did
doing
have
them regularly now, like for the last year?
So when we chatted, I had decided I wanted to do it at least once a month. So I was finding people, I don't remember if I'd gone full time yet. I have a feeling that I probably had. Um, but I started talking to people and I realized I liked it so much more than being on here by myself,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to come up with topics to talk about for an hour. Um, and I can't really crochet and chat very well.
I
So
know.
like
I
I
have
try
my
that.
knitting, and I'm like, I can't not.
Yes,
I also want
because
to
I have
focus on you and the
and
guests. So
yes. And so that was difficult for me, and I realized how much I love this, and it gives me a reason to expand my community. So people that I've been following for a long time but have never talked to, it gives me a reason to send them a message, connect with them, hop on a Zoom chat, get to know them a little bit more, let other people get to know them once we do the live. And everybody has such great stories. Everybody has so many cool things to share. And so I started doing it monthly, and it turned into I had enough momentum and enough people interested that I'm doing it weekly. So now it's just all the time. It's every week.
that's great. I love that.
And it's been really fun. And I think unless I run out of people, that want to come on, then it'll just keep going and I can bring people back and
Yay.
what
No.
happened?
Oh, Arya came in. She's
Oh.
just kind of, you know, oh, she's laying down.
Oh, and she's precious.
Yes.
And she's the Instagram dog. Yes, that's just
Yes. People know her.
photogenic.
She's my team mascot. She
Mm-hmm.
it's my bestie. Yes.
So since I lost the original video, I do want to do a little bit of your backstory if you're up for it to let people know who don't follow you what your journey has been like because you've got a great story of just your journey to where you are and what that looked like. So won't you tell us a little about yourself and introduce yourself? This is Chereen.
It's been so long, and honestly, I haven't been as well, I've been a little bit active on Instagram, but I haven't been as active in this last year. So I feel like there's probably a lot of people that follow me even that don't know my story anymore or don't really know who I am. But I'm Chereen, and I'm the owner, maker, and designer of Smeeny Beanie Knits. My background is actually as a chef. So I spent about 10 years in the restaurant industry working as a chef. And that's kind of where I started knitting. I, needed something to do to wind down after like a long day and night in the restaurant that was not on my feet. Like I wanted to be sitting.
And were those long hours? Like what were the
hours.
hours like as a chef?
I mean, obviously it fluctuated depending on the season, but like there were many, many, many weeks, months where I was working like 80 hours a week, 6 days, 6 days, 80 hours. And then at the minimum, still like 60 hours, so it wasn't like nothing. And then, I love cooking. It's a passion of mine. I went to school for food science actually and worked in food manufacturing for a little bit and then fell in love with the restaurant world. And there are definitely parts of it that I miss incredibly, but it was just not a sustainable lifestyle. And you don't make a lot of money either. So it was kind of like you're spending all of your time and energy doing something that you're passionate about, and that's what's driving you.
Yeah.
But then from a lifelong standpoint, it was just not something I could keep going. But anyway, so I got really burned out after 10 years. And but the knitting business kind of grew during that time too. At first it was a hobby, and I think like most of us as a hobby you just want to make more stuff, and then actually all of your friends and your family have too many knit or crochet items.
I don't need another hat, thank you.
Exactly. And I think at one point, this was in 2017, I remember this, 2017, I had just gotten an Instagram because I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump on this IG thing. And I made a post with some beanies on it, and I got so much engagement, like more engagement than I've ever gotten on a post back then, and they were like, my friends were just like, oh, are you selling these? Like, can I buy one? Blah. And you're just like, I mean, I'm sure everyone can relate where you're like, me? You want to spend money on this thing I made? So that was the first, like, okay, like, this is fun. And I was still full-time, like, the head chef of this restaurant. But just stumbled upon this podcast called Create and Thrive. And the woman that runs the podcast, she had been a maker for like 10 years doing jewelry and was basically teaching people how to turn their creative hobby into a business. And I like binge listened to this pod. I was like, one of those like sliding door moments where you're like, this is a path. Like, so I was like, this sounds awesome. And this was the point where I was getting really burned out. And at one point, my friend who was making jewelry was like, you should check out this shop. They carry my goods. You should see if they want to carry your beanies. And I was like, okay. And the owners are amazing. They are artists themselves. So what they do is they put their art on like apparel and home goods and stuff, and they hand screen print all of it on top of creating designs. But then they curate the rest of their shop with local handmade goods. So I got in with them, and that was like before I had even done Etsy or anything. And it was like, people are buying, like strangers are buying my stuff. So I know this is a long story, but I
No,
left
it's
the
great.
restaurant. Yeah, I left the restaurant and I actually started working on a farm. And I had a really good relationship with the farm because I did a lot of farm to table. So I bought a lot of stuff from them, and I would always take my staff out there to see where the food came from.
That's cool.
And I remember at the time, the head grower, she was like, "Hey, Chereen, we're looking for a chef, you know?" And
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm here with my team." Like,
Yeah.
but fast forward, like, I think must have been a year later, a year and a half later. I was like, I'm going to see if they still need that chef. And I
Yeah.
basically went to start this culinary department teaching cooking classes and
Oh,
farm to
cool.
table. And then I fell in love with the actual farming aspect of things. Like, it was a whole different side of food that I had very little experience in. And I just was like, I want to pursue this. And I give all of this other side of my life backstory because it also allowed me to grow my handmade business without, I think a lot of people, when you go full time, I am full time now with Smeeny Beanie Knits, and I also have a second business. But people think, quit your job, you're full time with your biz. And usually some people it's true, but for a lot of people, it's not the case. So I spent 2 years on the farm, and I worked not full time, but like close, like maybe 30 hours a week there.
Yeah.
But what that allowed me to do was have stable income while also enjoying it and having enough time to like slowly grow this side business.
Yeah.
And I always thought this would be a side business. My other business is a private chef business, farm to table, where I help out on a farm and literally get
Same farm?
What's that?
Same farm, or is it a different farm?
Different farm now. It's actually my friend's farm, so it's been really fun helping grow her business.
Yeah.
And collaborating basically on mine. Like, I help out with every aspect because it's their farm. So it's like sometimes with my clients, I'm like, I killed the chicken you're eating, like me.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. But anyway, so I was doing that year round at first, and then Smeeny Beanie Knits was on the side. And then I had already, this is such a long timeline. I had already planned to leave that first farm after 2 years and go full time with both businesses because they were at the point where I was like, let's see what happens if I put all of my time and energy into this. Like, they had gotten successful enough, more traction, that I was like, where could this go?
So you had the farm. You were working at the farm.
Yes.
Not quite full time. And you had two businesses.
And I had two businesses, which kind of stemmed from this, like, oh my gosh, I have time. And this is something I'm excited about. Let's explore this side, two side hustles, essentially. But then I was like, okay, I put in my notice. My last day was supposed to be March 18th, 2020. And everything shut down like 3 days before my last day. And so it was definitely like, okay, we're like for sure doing this.
Jumping in.
Jumping in. And that year for me with Smeeny Beanie Knits, I mean, we're all inside. And I also sell knitting patterns and mostly finished goods. Like, that's my focus. But I do enjoy knitting patterns and stuff. And I think maybe a lot of us felt this during the pandemic. It was like, I am so grateful to have a hobby or a business that I can do at home and I enjoy. And then it led to doing that maker series where I got to connect with makers and like actually make friends. Like, there's people now that I met on there that we chat, via text frequently. And like, just, I don't know. It's like, it's really cool developing those relationships with other makers, as I'm sure you know. But like I said, my private chef business was my full-time and Smeeny was my side. And then in 2020, it kind of flip-flopped to where I was like, oh, Smeeny is my full-time job and full-time income. And this chefing is a side hustle and it's working. Yeah. And so, and like I said, burnout was still definitely a mental struggle. I still battle with some of the mental aspects of the burnout where I'm very conscious to not allow that to happen again. Yeah. Especially now since I'm fully self-employed, I'm like, I can't let myself get burnout. Yeah. Because it was hard, very hard, and really hard to get out of that spiral. But yeah, so, And with the farm to table aspect, I was like, I can shrink down when I offer private chef services to just the farming season. And I live in Northwest Colorado. We're like at 7,000 feet. And so we only literally have, like, our summers are pretty short, which I love because I love winter.
Yeah.
But so it worked out. And then I just felt so much more freedom and like not a burden, but it just felt so much more authentic and aligned to only cook during farm season, and then to have the rest of this time focusing on the knitting business without splitting focus, without like feeling like I'm not doing enough, or that, you know, all the things that you tell your, you know, the negative, not negative self-talk necessarily, but just like imposter syndrome or like all these things. But now I'm like, okay, I can do it. But anyway, so long story short, here I am doing 2 businesses full time now.
And so how long officially has it been that you've been full time? It's been like 2 years, yeah?
2 years, yeah. Over
Yeah.
2 years now, because it would have been March of 2020. So this coming March would be 3 years.
That's so exciting.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're in our first full year. So it's almost been a full year since we've been full time, and it's kind of mind blowing. And it's just, I mean, I don't know if you'll ever fully get rid of like how long is this going to last, you know?
Yes.
Because I feel like you never really know. All you can do is your best. I mean, I feel like we saw so many businesses that had been in business for years and years and years that COVID shut it down, you know, whether they were in person or not. There was just so much hardship during the height of all of that, that I think it's, you know, I think all of us are just kind of like, we're just going to keep doing this. Well, enjoy it while it's great, and make the most of it. I would love if you would be willing to share a little bit about what some of the things are. You talked about burnout, and I feel like that's really real for anyone who has a craft that they love, whether it's crochet or not, knit, crochet, fiber, or, you know, jewelry making, or whatever it is that you do. I think we all have to be careful when we say, okay, I want to make money off of this. I want this to be, you know, part-time, even just part-time income, can cause you to, whether it's because of an overuse injury, because you're working yourself too hard, or just mentally, you know, you lose your creativity. What are some of the things that you've done to really keep that from happening again for you? Because that was such a big thing that happened.
Yeah. So I think going into the business, I was like, if I start getting those feelings, I need to really pull back and reevaluate what I'm doing and how I'm setting myself up for success, essentially. And so with the chefing and shrinking that down and giving myself more time on the knitting side, that was really helpful. So I know everyone has a different situation, like if you have children or if you have other responsibilities or other jobs or whatever, that is something, you know, kind of the restructuring really helped, where I, you know, set aside these months, and not everyone can do this, but, you know, this is my time to really focus on chefing and having a fun summer, and knitting, but not feeling like I have to knit. This year it's really interesting because I usually try to go into my season with a couple hundred already made items, and I am nowhere near that. And it's almost September. But I'm also like, you know what? I really enjoyed the summer. I was going through really intense grief, and this is okay. I actually read this quote recently, little tangent, about what is the purpose of life? And I think everyone spends so much energy finding this purpose that what if, or the meaning, right? And for me, it's, I mean, so many different factors, but for me, it's become very much like just the experience of life is really meaningful, and how you do it, like the intentional living of life. It sounds really woo-woo, but it's true. I mean, with all stuff with a lot of death this year, and then I had a lot of health stuff actually that I was dealing with, it totally changed a lot of perspectives and priorities, or at least make like not have feel like I shouldn't worry about whether I have how many hundred beanies or something, you know. It's like, this is what's going on. It's okay. Like, would I feel burnout if I had forced myself to crank on the knitting when I wasn't feeling, when I was just trying to survive, essentially, you know? So anyway, I don't know if that's helpful, but just listen to yourself and don't force anything. I know Instagram has been really frustrating for a lot of people, small business, especially.
I think
like
so.
Everyone. I mean, let's just admit it. Engagement has really tanked and sucks, and you're like, not that I don't want to be on here. I do. Connecting is definitely still something I really enjoy, but it just feels a little bit less like exciting. So I think equally, it's like, don't force yourself to, if you don't feel, I mean, or don't pay attention to that number. Like, just throw a post up there. It's fine.
Yes.
If people connect, amazing. If you even have touched like a few people, like that's meaningful. And if you don't, you did it for yourself. Like, you know. So I think just being intentional with all of that, with your time, with your business stuff. I don't know. It's just focusing on that, I guess.
Well, and I think you hit a couple points that I love. And one of them was separating the time. It's also, and I hate to call it, because in my head I was like forced breaks, but you don't want to force it. But I feel like creating a structure in your life that almost forces you to take breaks. Like you said, you know, take your break from the main focus of knitting and move it onto something else that you love, which allows you to change your focus, and that changes things up. And I think we all do well with that. And I think that's why it's important to have multiple hobbies or multiple things that we enjoy in our life. I know for me, it's going from the design aspect to working on the hooks and the tools and things with my husband, and then you know, having the design side of drawing and, you know, working and Procreate. And it's if I start to feel like I'm just really overwhelmed by this design process, then I can put it away and I can do something else for a little while. And then I also feel like when you talked about living intentionally and what's the purpose, and I think some of it is even the bad parts of life, it grounds you, and it's like, we're here and we're living in this moment and we need to reprioritize. And I think a lot of people, that COVID was a big driver for reprioritization of things in their life. I know it was for us. Specifically spending more time together and not being like, you know, what did we marry each other for if we never see each other? If we're both in an office for 9+ hours a day or gone all week traveling, why did we buy this house if we're not going to enjoy it? You know, I mean, all of those things. And I think it was different for everybody. But I really liked that idea of that separation that you've created for your life, because it's going to give you like breathing room and time to say, okay, this is getting a little much. Like, let's move, like you said, have a really fun summer and do something that, you know, I'm only going to be able to do for a short amount of time. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, and like what you're saying with really feeling, sitting, like there's even the negative, like the bad stuff that, I mean, I've been talking a lot about grief on my page recently, in the last year. And there's so many different types of grief. I mean, the ones we went through were death and then health. And I think we're very quick to push away negative feelings. It's, I think, scary for everyone, but at the same time, you can't really process or move through them unless you sit in those feelings and really get in touch with yourself and where you're at, both mentally. I mean, it literally affected me physically. So it's kind of like, I think it also just makes you feel alive. I mean, it's weird to say it, but it's like, because sometimes, like, especially with the grief, it's like you move on in a way that you're able to be happy again and allow yourself to feel some joy.
Yeah.
And then you feel the grief again, and it's almost like comforting to feel that deep sense of pain, because you're like, it was real, like it existed,
Yes.
the love
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah.
um, and it can apply to so many different things. Like you could be grief over a life that you had before something happened, or
Hmm.
like a health thing where you realize that you are, can't do some things anymore, or
Hmm.
whatever it is, right? So I think we realized a lot about toxic positivity in the last 2 years,
Hmm.
like as a society, and
Yeah.
how it can actually be really damaging. Um, but actually really sitting in those things has
Hmm.
helped also realign a lot of stuff, and like battle or prevent burnout. And I think like what you were saying with your business and your priorities, it's like figuring out what those are.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's such a balance. Like grief is such a balance and everybody deals with it differently, but I've always been of that same mindset of you have to allow yourself to feel it. You have to allow yourself to sit in the moment, feel the feelings, process the feelings, talk about the feelings. But then you have to move forward. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean move on. Like you
Yeah,
don't forget what happened. You don't try to shove it away into the depths of your mind. Like it's going to be there, but it's moving forward and finding the positive things in life and seeking out these different things to start to prioritize and depending on the situation it's harder and it takes longer for some people depending on what happened and what the situation is, but um I feel like, and you may feel the same way, that I feel like we have really moved in a direction of normalizing talking about it. Whatever it is,
yeah,
sharing stories, sharing situations, and it has created this online community. Like it's so much easier now, I think, to find a community around whatever it is that you're going through. Some communities are better than others. Some of them, like I had to leave some communities because I was like, it's time for me to move on. I can't sit in this space anymore. And finding a new group of people to share experiences with. Um, but I feel like that has become a bit more normalized and it's easier to share those stories on places like social media.
totally. And I feel like it's also really, when you share your stuff, it makes people also feel more comfortable sharing theirs if they've been struggling. Like it's actually amazing. When I first started sharing a lot about the grief, it there was so many conversations that came up from it, or
Hmm.
things that I didn't realize other people were going through, that I've
Yeah.
been, Insta friends with for a while, and then they tell you the story. And I don't know, it's really cool to connect on a deeper level, I guess, is really what that
Yes.
was. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And you realize
Whatever.
and you realize how many people don't have anyone to talk to about it
Mm-hmm.
or feel like they can't. Like I don't feel like I could share this until I saw that you shared it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very empowering when anyone is willing to share a little bit about what they're going through and because I think it's gotten better because I feel like Instagram got a really bad rap for being like this kind of fake reality of sunshine and rainbows all the time, but I do feel like a lot of people are um, being more intentional about sharing like, hey, it's not, I'm not going to share my whole personal life story, but it's not always pretty.
Mm-hmm.
There's difficult moments and here's some of the things that I've been dealing with. And I think it's made it a little bit more real. And I think it's made it a little more of positive place for people to, be. And
Mm-hmm.
just stuff like this, having kind of just the real conversations and letting people in a little bit to see this all of us are more than just our reels of yarn and pretty makes.
Yeah, our reels
We're
of
just people.
all the things we're doing. Well, and I think it's like the same with business, right? It's like I do love being self-employed. Like
Yeah.
at this point, I'm almost like, I don't know if I could have a job
Yes.
again.
Hmm. Yeah.
But
Agreed.
but it's also equally really hard, and there's a lot of things that aren't awesome about it.
Hmm.
But the awesome parts outweigh the not awesome parts for now. And I think
Yeah.
like what you mentioned at the beginning of our chat about like how long is this going to last?
Hmm.
And I think it's like another we all have that. I definitely like, I don't know,
Hmm.
what if this year no one wants anything? But but I think equally it's kind of like the cool thing about being a solopreneur. Like I don't have employees. I have a couple people that help me out that I,
Mm-hmm.
you know, contract here and there for different things, for both businesses, but it, you know, pretty much solopreneur. So it's kind of like I'm grateful as much as it also falls on me to make sure I have an income. It also, no one's depending on me for theirs.
Yeah.
So if I need to pivot or make some changes or go in a different direction or
Yeah.
add new avenues or whatever,
Yeah.
it's okay. And we talk a lot about work-life balance. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like it really isn't, it doesn't exist. Like the idea of this work-life balance
Mm-hmm.
in my
Mm-hmm.
brain, it's like these levers of different aspects of your work and your life where
Mm-hmm.
you are maybe pushing a little bit on one, a little bit more at certain times, pulling back and pushing a little bit on the other. And it's like this constant ebb and flow.
I
Like,
like that a lot.
yeah, like seasons and cycles and all of these things. But that's like, you know, if you find all your time thinking you need to seek this like balance like this, I don't think you will. But if you
Yeah.
just kind of go with these ebbs and flows, you'll find something that in the course of the year feels really good.
Yeah. And I like the idea of just kind of listening to what you need, and what your family needs or your partner, whoever is in your life, what they need. Because I know for me, like, if you read about remote work, which is a lot of what I looked at first, you know, because I was like, what are some things to help me be a little more productive? I'm not the type of person that usually works from home. Um, you know, I think maybe I need a schedule, and you know, all of these things are like you should make office hours and you should, you know, choose when you're going to work. And I did try that. I was like, maybe that's what I'll do, but then I realized that's why I left full-time
Mm-hmm.
work, is because I didn't want to have that kind of standard office hour practice. And I love what you said, because it makes total sense, and it's what we try to do. Is like, there are some days where stuff comes up and I'm just so grateful to say, like, you know what, we're just not going to get work done today. Like, there's other things that are happening, we need to focus on that. Or I'm just feeling tired, or I'm feeling mentally worn out, it's time for me to just, you know, eat some snacks and watch a little Netflix. Like, I don't know.
Totally.
um and just remembering to take that time. I think that's the balance in a lot of ways, is figuring out what you need and what allows you to continue to feel like you're doing the right thing with your life and you're putting the right priorities in place, and that the people around you feel supported and you feel supported. Um, and I think that's more important than trying to, like you said, create these hard lines of, you know, this is work, this is my, you know, here's my balance, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Um, and that is something I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like one of the things that I've been talking about a lot when it comes to creative burnout, avoiding creative burnout, um, and, you know, not losing, like a lot of people mention, like losing your crojo, you know, where you just don't want to pick your hooks, or yes. And I think one of the big things that I talk about is personal projects. So
Yeah.
having things that you focus on that are 100% for you. They are not going to, well, I mean, it's possible maybe they'd make you some money, but that's not the goal. How do you feel about personal projects? Do you have personal projects that are currently happening? Is that something that you focus on? What's that like for you?
I think like everything, there's ebb and flow to that. I
Hmm.
finally made myself a sweater last year.
That's awesome.
And I actually did it like over like between Christmas and New Year's, where I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna do it, you know. I'm in the middle of this season, but this year, and then test knitting has been really fun in a way,
Hmm.
in that way too. Like test knitting something, like I basically make beanies, like that's what I make and sell.
Hmm.
Test
Hmm.
knitting garments, you know, where you
Yeah.
have to do something different and it's for you and you're helping out this friend. I
Hmm.
also think like creatively for me, since I also sell patterns, I was kind of in a little bit of a design rut. um I just didn't have any ideas, so I'm like, I'm not
Yep.
gonna make myself do anything.
Yep.
And then this year I was like, I really want, like, I like simple designs too, so I'm like,
Hmm.
it feels like everyone has, everything has been done, let's just face
Yeah.
it, like
Oh,
there's
I
only
know.
so many crochet and knit stitches. But what is our personal interpretation of it, and how am I going to do it my way? Like I wanted
Yes.
to make like this really simple cable beanie that I haven't found a pattern for, or or something that I want to wear. So I was
Yes.
like, I'm just gonna make this pattern,
Hmm.
which I'm in the middle of doing right now. So it's like, even though later it's gonna sell, it's like also because I wanted to make it. It wasn't for the sake of having something to sell.
Yeah.
And then I think also having hobbies outside of your business and creative work, where it's like, even if it's the same craft, like
Hmm.
maybe it's for a different purpose. Like
Yeah.
donating things or
Hmm.
participating in the camps for kids or stuff like
Yeah.
that. Or just totally different hobbies outside of
Hmm.
that. Active hobbies. I'm very, like, I very active, love being outside. Like we camp, we hike, we forage,
You
we
can tell on your page. If you guys don't follow her, go and check her page out now because you'll see like super outdoors. I love it.
we love it. I'm
It
not
makes you want to get
extreme, but
outside.
I just like being outside. But I think, going back to what you're saying earlier about um, finding ways to have your business be aligned, it's like, as for me at least, as a solopreneur, my business is as much a part of my life as my life can be a part of the
Hmm.
business. So it's like you said, I'm not sharing every single thing that occurs or like my whole life story, but it's like, what do I enjoy doing stuff outside? How do I incorporate that into my biz? I'm just going to share what I'm doing outside sometimes. And maybe the people who also enjoy those things or want to see those things are going to want to as well. And I
Hmm.
think when you are aligned with your values, like your business is aligned with your values and you're able to just be who you
Hmm.
are, it also prevents burnout because you're not putting on a face. Like when I was struggling with the grief, I was like, this is what's going on. Sorry, I'm not posting, but this is what's
Yeah.
going on with me right now.
Yeah.
Um, and there you go.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just, we don't, I, the cool thing about Instagram is that it has moved away from this perfectly curated, like,
Hmm.
feed life thing. And people, like, I see that now. If there's still accounts that are like that, I'm kind of like, I don't, I don't feel as connected to them at all anymore
Yes.
versus
Yeah.
like someone who, you know, incorporates all of these other real things that are happening to everyone. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's in this day and age being a handmade maker, whatever. And it's so funny because we opened a new bank account in this state finally because we had one that there's no bank in our state that we actually, it's all online because of,
Oh,
yeah, there's not like an in-person bank that we were banking with in Georgia. They don't have one in Alabama. So I was like, it's time for us to find somewhere that we can actually like go to the bank.
yeah.
um, and they asked me what my profession was. And like, it's the hardest question to answer now because I'm like, I make crochet hooks, however you want to categorize that, you know? Um, but I feel like in this day and age, if you want to be a maker, handmade maker, whatever, artist, whatever you want to classify yourself as, and it's just you, or you and your partner, or you and a friend, um, I feel like you're going to do a lot better if you just own it and it's you. Like, be the face of your business and just be yourself. Because, like you said, if you're not putting on a face, it's so much easier. Like, when I just decided, hey, look, guys, it's just me. Like, if you like me, great. If
Hmm.
you don't, there are so many other people that you can follow and support. And I don't have to put on a bunch of makeup to look a certain way. I don't have to dress a certain way. I'm just going to be who I am. And like, I wear my merchandise out all the time. And I think that's another thing that makes it easy when you're trying to create content. And I want to talk to you a little bit about that. This is why I give us an hour, because I mean, I think we've got like 15 minutes left.
Hmm.
Um, but if you love what you do and you're just sharing your life as a part of your business, then the content creation side can become very simple because like you said, I mean, the photos on your feed are you guys out having these great adventures in the place that you live, wearing your items. So it's there, like it's all there. And it's just, getting the camera out and having that ready and being able to share that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Totally.
yeah. So I do want to talk a little bit about because I got to speak this year at the Crochet Business Summit, and
Cool.
it was all about that. It was the focus was just my journey from doing it as kind of a side hustle to going full time and kind of what that looked like. But one of the main things in the presentation was all about niching down. So like finding a niche, finding a focus for your business, something that, like you said, connects to your values and that just it makes it easier to talk about it because it's a part of who you are and it's something you're passionate about. And I had a list of people. It just said people, makers who are rocking their niche. It's pretty much, and you were one of them.
Oh.
And that was after we'd had our conversation. Um, and a lot of it came down to what we had talked about originally, how you really did focus down. Like you have a very specific product line, you have a very specific type of yarn that you source for your products. And you have a very specific audience of who you're speaking to. So I'd love if in the last, 15 or so minutes that we've got, if you want to kind of talk about how that happened and I know that's a long story, but what you can and how that has worked for you and just the fact that it was actually very successful, and it kind of scary to make the jump, but it was worth it.
Totally.
Yeah.
So when I started knitting, or when I started my when it was a side hustle and I started,
Mhm.
I I really just focused on just making beanies, and I was using, whatever yarn.
Mostly woolly, stick and quick. I think we
Mostly
talked
woolly
about that.
synthetic, because that, and also at that time that was the yarn,
Yes.
and it's great
Mhm.
yarn. It's great yarn. Don't get me wrong.
Yep.
It's great. Um, and I was selling my beanies, and I really only do beanies. Like people are like, "Oh, you
Mhm.
should do, you have a dog. You should do dog
Yeah.
clothes. You should do like love, all this stuff."
Yeah.
And I'm like, all because I can doesn't mean I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe I'll
And
do
that's
it
a
for
big deal.
a big deal.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I've also found that I am a process maker. Like the act of knitting for me is what I enjoy the most about
Mhm.
the making. Like I do have several different styles, so I'm exploring different techniques, but it's not like that is the driver behind why I want to create. It's like I just
Mhm.
love knitting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anyway, so beanies is my thing because I just wear them. I'm a beanie person. I like
Hmm.
do I wear other things? Sometimes, but I don't, I'm not gonna make styles that I don't personally wear.
Yes.
Um, what were we talking about? The niching down.
Yeah.
So then what were the things that really I spend my life doing and things that I like to wear and what businesses I like to support? Businesses that have some sort of mission behind it. And so the things that mattered to me were the environment, climate change,
Mhm.
the national parks, racial and social justice were things that I found myself really conscious of, especially in 2020. But like before that too, where it's like,
Yeah.
am I aligned with this business? Do I want to spend my dollars supporting this entity?
Mhm.
Um, and that was when I really was like, I need to shift. So now I only use ethically and sustainably sourced wool.
Mhm.
And at first it was really scary because it's much more expensive. It's probably
Mhm.
3 or 4 times more expensive than land brand woolies thick and quick. And I was really worried that no one would buy them because it's more expensive. So I have to
Mhm.
charge more for these hats. How much is
Mhm.
someone willing to pay for a hat?
Yeah.
And when I made that shift, not only did I just feel better about the product I was putting out, just because of my values, like, no, again, nothing wrong with these other hats with this
Mhm.
other yarn. The quality is great. People love
Mhm.
them still. But for me and how I want my business to be represented, right? It just didn't feel as aligned. But when I made the shift, I was like so much more proud about talking about
Yep.
product and talking about why I chose to do this. Um, and people bought the hats. Like, so I think
Mhm.
it's like people who are aligned with those values and we're like, well, if I'm gonna get a hat, this one's aligned with me. Not saying there's anything wrong with the other one. And maybe there's someone that's like, I love this one. it's all good.
Mhm.
But it also then later led me to become a business member of 1% for the Planet. So it's a partnership with this nonprofit organization where you actually donate 1% of your revenue. So not just your profits, but your revenue towards vetted environmental nonprofits. So I actually split my donation now between the National Park Foundation and Protect Our Winters. My husband and I spent a few seasons working in the national park system.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
that has always been something really near and dear to me, and something just like I want future generations to be able to enjoy, like the parks. I know there's a lot of like stuff with the land back and the Native Americans and stuff like that with the park system. But ultimately, too, having these public lands for people in general
Yeah.
is really important. And then climate change, Protect Our Winters, basically, they do a lot of advocacy for protecting the outdoors and climate change in conjunction with it, and in conjunction with like outdoor sports. And they have a lot of
Mhm.
communities like that. I also support the Intersectional Environmentalist as a monthly Patreon. So it's a nonprofit, like young people. Um, we're young, but like they're young,
Yes.
you know, but
Yes.
doing all this amazing work, finding the intersection between environmental justice and racial justice and social justice. And so I want to support them. So I'm very vocal and transparent about the places and organizations I support, because again, I want the people who are buying my products to know who they're supporting. And equally, I want the people who are representing my business by wearing my products to, you know, be people I want to,
Mhm.
you know, that align with the values too. I don't know if that
Yep.
all makes sense, but
No, it does. And I feel like people are going to want to support you for the same reason that you made the switch. The
mm,
same exact reason that you said, I want to find, and like you said, it's nothing against the company that you're not supporting. At this time, I don't think there's any reason not to support
no,
Lion Brand,
yeah.
but
And I use
it's,
some of their stuff still for different things, but not
mhm.
for products I'm selling.
But it's finding, if you're spending that kind of money, I mean, this is your full-time business. I think all of us have been in a situation at least once where we've said, I'm going to support this person for this reason. Even if I could find something cheaper, even if I could find something just as well made or whatever it is, there's a reason it feels right that I'm going to support this person, that I'm going to spend my money here. For any number of reasons. But I think we've all been in that boat. And I think it's very relatable. And I think, like you said, um, not just the content that you're sharing when it comes to showing that you are someone who loves the outdoors, and the connection of like, I like to hike, she likes to hike. You know what I mean? Like that's the connection. But creating multiple areas for people to feel that connection with your brand and feel like they're supporting someone that they really want to be supporting for multiple reasons. And I mean, I think that's a huge part of running a successful business
Mhm.
nowadays.
Well, and I think a lot of people are afraid to do that and to be so convicted, I guess, because you're like, what if this person, you know, people are like, but
Mm-hmm.
what if someone told me they can just buy this at Walmart for $2 or something. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
they're not your person then.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I have plenty of friends who have Target beanies or like other beanies
Mm-hmm.
too. But the one
Yep.
they got from me, they bought for the reason of I'm treating myself to this special beanie for this reason. Do I have
Yes.
ones? Totally. You know, it's like saying, I don't know if you follow the artist Rachel Pohl.
No, but I will.
Okay. She's an awesome artist, but she puts all of her art in different apparel, and you know, it's a little more pricey. And I'm like, yes, do I have a basic tank top from American Eagle? Yes.
Oh, I
Do
saw
I
you
want
wearing her stuff.
yes,
So yes,
yes.
I had to go look at it. I was like, oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Right? And then I'm like, but do I want to support this artist and have this amazingly beautiful
Yes.
tank from this
Mm-hmm.
girl? Yes. So it's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
it's not mutually exclusive, the support of whatever you're supporting. And, you know, it
Mm-hmm.
is more expensive. Like I myself, I'm like, I'm not make million like millions, you know, I'm not
Yes.
gonna, I can't do, you know,
Yes.
if I could I would like to support all these things, but do I have basic beanies or basic shirts from other places? Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been awesome. I feel like I'm like, okay, out of time, but I'm so happy you came on, and this was fantastic. I knew it would be. I mean, because it was time for us to get to catch up again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yes. And I feel like it's one of those things now. I feel like I have enough people where it's like every year I'm going to need to check back in and see what people are working on and what they're doing. And because I feel like our focuses shift, and we're trying new things and doing new things. And I just love that this has become a place where I can bring people on, and I can find out about new things. I can make new friends. People can make new friends. We can all grow our communities. And even if it's small, it's my little small way of like, let's all get together. And
Friend, like that flew by.
yes, I know. That's why sometimes I'm like, okay, is an hour too long? But it's usually not. It's usually like, okay, we could hit on a million other topics. So I'm so grateful for you coming on, and I really hope, I know, like you said, it's been a difficult year for you, and I hope that it just gets better, that you're able to move through and, create more beautiful things, and, that it's good.
Yes. No, thank you so much. I mean, it means a lot. And again, grateful for this business where it can just move with me and it's going to be okay. And
Yes.
we can do what we want with it and our life.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you so much to everyone who joined in our live today. If you came in late and you want to rewatch, this will be saved to my YouTube, thanks to archiving lives. And you can also watch this on YouTube. It'll be a couple hours before I get it posted, but I do have a YouTube playlist full of all of these wonderful episodes with all of these wonderful makers and creative people. And so you can check it out there. And yeah, I'll be live again next Friday with a new friend for you guys to meet. So thank you so much again, Chereen, and I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend and have some time for more personal projects.
Yeah, you too. And thanks for everyone that joined.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.